All right, our system is up. It's time to start. And speaking of starting, why don't we turn to number 634? 634. And we'll just sing the first verse so Brother Wilson can get started right away. 634, verse number 1. O land of rest for thee I sigh, when will the moment come when I shall lay my armor by and dwell in peace at home? We'll work till Jesus comes, we'll work till Jesus comes, we'll work till Jesus comes, and we'll be gathered home. Brother Jay Wilson.
That's terrible to talk about work. Interesting to me, that the kingdom of heaven, is the way Jesus puts it in the Gospel of Matthew, is often pictured as a wheat field or a vineyard. And what I noticed in both of those, there's a lot of work getting done. So that's the way it is. Well, we're here watching the Gospel according to John. And we're just finishing up the 17th chapters where we are. So Jesus has just finished praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. He instituted the Lord's Supper in a special room that he had set up. I wanted to kind of go back and touch on that for just a second because the video didn't quite get that part right either. You know, Jesus had Peter and John go out there and stand on the street. And he said, when you see a man come by with a jug of water on his head, follow him. Now, in most of these countries, it's the women that are carrying water. You know, I've seen it in Africa where the big lake, that's a man-made lake, we were camped on the edge of it in the morning. All the girls about 8 and 9 years old, came down to the water. They actually walked right into it, and they had a fairly large, kind of bowl on their head. They had a smaller bowl, and they were down there using the small bowl to fill up the big one. And when they got it filled, because your neck can take a lot of weight apparently, and so it's the women. So it'd be unusual to see a man walking by, but it wouldn't be totally unusual, but that was a signal. See, because Jesus knew that Judas was going to be involved in betraying him. He doesn't want Judas and the troops to get there while he's trying to institute the Lord's Supper. So he has Peter and John follow this guy, and he tells him he's going to stop at a house. And when he stops, then you go on in, and the code word is that to the guy that's in the house, that this is the place where the master and I want to have the Lord's Supper or have the Passover. So it was all set up so that nobody, see, Peter and John, they had no idea where it was going to be. But Jesus had all that stuff set up. See, so he's making sure that on his part that that only the right people were there at the right time. And then when he finishes up, then he starts walking toward the Garden of Gethsemane, and he gives a lot of instruction to the apostles in chapters 15 and 16 of John. And in 17, as he gets to the west side of the Kidron, he stops and he prays. He prays. All John 17 is that prayer. And his first prayer is for himself. He says, I pray that I can be restored to the glory that I had with you before the world was. See, then he prays the middle section for the apostles. And he said, that I've kept them from the world. He said they're in the world, but they're not of the world. And then when he finishes praying for the apostles, he prays for the future church. He said, not only do I pray for the apostles alone, but I also pray for all those who believe in me through their word. See, because it's going to be the word of the apostles, that they may be one. And then one of the key things he says, the glory We emphasized this last week, but I want to emphasize it again. The glory that you gave me, I have given to them, that they may be one. See, it's the flesh, the mindset on the flesh that results in disunity. See, the deeds of the flesh listed in the book of Galatians are envying, factions, all that kind of stuff. It isn't just immorality and drunkenness that send a person to hell. Somebody causes divisions where division should not be caused, where they create raucuses. You know, all the things that your relatives do between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay, it's that sort of thing, right? Um, so you have to participate in the glory, otherwise the flesh is going to make it impossible to achieve the unity that the Scripture talks about. And that's why in Ephesians, Paul says that we're going to come to the unity of the faith, to a mature man, to the measure of the fullness that belongs to the measure of the stature that belongs to the fullness of Christ. That's how unity is going to be achieved. It's going to be achieved on a character basis. Just shoving a bunch of people in a room together isn't going to make them united. So, one of the things that that the Apostle Paul said in the book of Romans, he said, "Whom he foreknew, he predestined to become conformed to the image of his Son. And these whom he predestined, or these whom he foreknew, he predestined." I already said that. "These whom he predestined, he also called. These whom he called, he justified." It says, "These whom he justified, he glorified." So we've already been glorified in the spiritual realm. That's how that unity is going to be achieved, and there's not going to be any other way that's going to happen. There's no ecumenical council that's going to meet. It's going to cause unity. It's going to have to be the unity of the Spirit, as the Apostle Paul. And that's what Jesus is praying for. He said, "I pray that they might all be one, even as you and I are one, that the world may believe that you sent me." See, that's the key thing. I was working with a Church of Christ preacher in Bozeman, Belgrade area. He was a guy that became a Christian and he never went to Bible college, so I figured I had a shot with him, and I did. He was a good guy, and he took down the sign that said "worship" on the Belgrade church building and just put up "assembly." And there was a funeral that took place. There was a lady that had been a member of the Belgrade church, or at least she was dunked, and then she had a sister that lived in Whitehall that I was studying with. And so when she passed away, I went to the funeral. Well, somehow at the gravesite, I ended up standing next to this preacher. And so, kind of a little bit of a lull in the doings, I said, "Hey, Mike," I said, "I'm thinking about John 17." And he said, "Well, I'm kind of thinking the same way." See, it could have been a great opportunity. See, but he had a heart attack and died at age 52, and you just can't, like we were talking, you can't guarantee anything. I recently met with the preacher of the Church of Christ in Belgrade, and he's having none of it. No, he's not interested in any unity whatsoever, because he's running an agenda whereby we're all broken. That tells me, okay, he's running the mega church operation. He has no interest in truth. He's just going to try to get him through the door, throw a little special baptism at him, and to give a little denominational distinction. He's not interested in truth, see, and that's okay. I mean, people are making their choices. We want to be sure that we try to follow, to truly try to answer Jesus' prayer. But that starts with us participating in the glory. So, well, that's the initial rant. So, we're ready. I think we can start this.
I made you known to me, and I will continue to do so in order that the love
Jesus of Nazareth.
Judas the traitor was standing there with them when Jesus said to them,
I'm he.
They moved back and fell to the ground. Again, Jesus asked them,
Who is it you're looking for?
Jesus of Nazareth.
I have already told you that I'm he. If then you are looking for me, let these others go.
He said this so that what he had said might come true. Father, I have not lost even one of those you gave me. Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's slave, cutting off his right ear. The name of the slave was Malchus.
Put your sword back in its place. Do you think that I will not drink the cup of suffering which my Father has given me?
Then the Roman soldiers, with their commanding officer and the Jewish guards, arrested Jesus, tied him up, and took him first to Annas. He was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. It was Caiaphas who had advised the Jewish authorities that it was better that one man should die for all the people. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. That other disciple was well known to the high priest, so he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest's house, while Peter stayed outside by the gate. Then the other disciple went back out, spoke to the girl at the gate, and brought Peter inside.
Aren't you also one of the disciples of that man?
It was cold, so the servants and guards had built a charcoal fire and were standing around it warming themselves. So Peter went over and stood with them, warming himself. The high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered,
I have always spoken publicly to everyone. All my teaching was done in the synagogues and in the temple where all the people come together. I have never said anything in secret. Why then do you question me? Question the people who heard me. Ask them what I told them. They know what I said. Dare you talk like that, high priest? If I have said anything wrong, tell everyone here what it was. But if I am right in what I have said, why do you hit me?
Then Annas sent him, still tied up, to Caiaphas, the high priest. Peter was still standing there, keeping himself warm. So the others said to him, Aren't you also one of the disciples of that man?
No, I'm not.
But Peter denied it. One of the high priest's slaves, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, spoke up.
Didn't I see you with him in the garden?
At once, a rooster crowed. Early in the morning, Jesus was taken from Caiaphas' house to the governor's palace. The Jewish authorities did not go inside the palace, for they wanted to keep themselves ritually clean in order to be able to eat the Passover meal. So Pilate went outside to them and asked,
What do you accuse this man of?
We would not have brought him to you if he had not committed a crime.
Then you yourselves take him and try him according to your own law.
We are not allowed to put anyone to death.
This happened in order to make come true what Jesus had said when he indicated the kind of death he would die. Pilate went back into the palace and called Jesus.
Are you the king of the Jews?
Does this question come from you? Or have others told you about me?
Do you think I'm a Jew? It was your own people and the chief priests who handed you over to me. What have you done?
My kingdom does not belong to this world. If my kingdom belonged to this world, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish authorities. No. My kingdom does not belong here.
Are you a king then?
You'd say that I'm a king. I was born and came into the world for this one purpose: to speak about the truth. Whoever belongs to the truth listens to me.
And what is truth?
Then Pilate went back outside to the people and said to them,
I cannot find any reason to condemn him, but according to the custom you have, I always set free a prisoner for you during the Passover. You want me to set free for you the King of the Jews?
They answered him with a shout. Barabbas was abandoned. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him whipped. The soldiers made a crown out of thorny branches and put it on his head. Then they put a purple robe on him and came to him and said, Long live the King of the Jews. And they went up and slapped him. Pilate went back out once more and said to the crowd,
Look, I will bring him out here to you to let you see that I cannot find any reason to condemn him. Look, here is the man.
So Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe.
Crucify! Crucify him!
You take him then and crucify him. I find no reason to condemn him.
We have a law that says he ought to die because he claimed to be the Son of God.
When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid. He went back into the palace and asked Jesus,
Where do you come from?
but Jesus did not answer.
You will not speak to me. Remember, I have the authority to set you free and also to have you crucified.
You have authority over me. Only because it was given to you by God. So the man who handed me over to you is guilty of a worse sin.
When Pilate heard this, he tried to find a way to set Jesus free.
If you set him free, that means you are not the Emperor's friend. Anyone who claims to be a king is a rebel against the Emperor.
When Pilate heard these words, he took Jesus outside and sat down on the judge's seat in the place called the Stone Pavement. In Hebrew, the name is Gabbatha.